Welcome to the Nearly Enlightened podcast. I am your host, Gianna Girousseau. And first, before I introduce our next guest, I just want to thank you all. I took 2 weeks off. It was a slow, quiet 2 weeks, and it was just what I needed. But thank you because the downloads were pouring in, and I couldn't be more blessed or humbled to watch those go up. It's truly a blessing every time I see it. We hit over 1,000 downloads. Last month probably. And I'm speechless, truly. So for all of you listening, for all of you that return, come back, share, write reviews, I look at all of it. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And with that said, I want to introduce Chrissy Marie. She was on almost 2 years ago now, which is so crazy. But Chrissy is a trauma-informed embodiment practitioner, inner child liberator, breathwork facilitator, and founder of the Art of Aliveness Podcast. She comes alive helping people discover how to use their voice to speak their truth, heal, and experience connection to the sacred. Her approach is playful and co-creative. She draws from over 10 years experience studying embodiment practices, neuroscience, and authentic relating skills to bring a safe, warm, and lighthearted flavor to the healing relationship. Her work is rooted in the art and science of play, compassion, and simplicity. Her clients say that they're drawn to her for her authenticity, her playfulness, and stay with her because they unlock this in themselves. You can find her working out, wandering in nature, or dancing wildly at the steering wheel. Hi, Chrissy. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back.
I'm so excited to be here. Yeah.
I'm so excited that you decided to come. So, Chrissy was on literally it was 2022, I think.
Yeah.
And you can go back and listen to that episode. It's a great episode. We talk a lot about your work with inner child healing, and play, and how to kind of let the seriousness of healing go and just have fun and tap into that enjoyment. And I love that because I talk about it on that episode. I got stuck in that spiral of super serious healing, and you just take it so seriously, and then you realize you're missing out on this fun and enjoyment and play. And that's really where the deep work is.
I think so.
For sure. And then you put up this post a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was the end of August, which I guess is almost a month ago now.
Yeah.
But you put up this post about how you launched a program in the beginning of summer, and then you kind of had your own experience with a new wave of imposter syndrome, and you had a group of women kind of help you through that. So I just thought maybe we could start there and talk about that, because I think it's so relatable, especially anyone in the healing sphere. You kind of go through these waves of oh my God, I'm doing it. And then it's oh my God, am I qualified to do this?
Yeah, for sure. I was feeling this. So I've been doing individual and group work with people around embodiment, around inner child healing for quite some time. And just, I want to say maybe two years ago, almost to this month, I started taking on therapy clients, and that was a newer thing. I had a license that I let expire. And then, yeah, over the summer, I was just starting to feel a staleness with the work. When you're just you're doing something, you enjoy it, but you're something needs to be tweaked. It's not as fulfilling as it used to be. So it just needs a new wave of creativity or even a big pivot. And I thought that I had received that new wave. I had gotten this idea, this spark for a program called Capable. And it's connected to the concept of internal family systems, which uses a lot of concepts that we've probably heard in other realms of holistic healing. But the essence is that we have a self that is untouched by shame and fear, and it knows no doubt. It knows exactly what we have to hear in any given moment, anytime we're feeling insecure. And I wanted to journey that concept of connecting to the self with people. And so I created this whole program. It was 8 sessions called Capable, about anchoring all that in. Yeah. And then life happens. I got 2 new dogs. We were doing home renovations, and just all of a sudden, it wasn't feeling it anymore. It wasn't feeling as alive as it was when it first came in. So I was all right, let me sit with it. Let me not force it. And then I was really sitting with, well, what actually does feel alive? And for me, it's helping people open up their voice. Because that's something I've done since I was a little girl, since I could talk. I was singing. And yeah, the imposter syndrome came up and I wasn't even aware that it was there, really. I was just like, oh, I don't have any training to be a voice teacher or to be a sound healing, guide. Who am I to do this? And I brought that to a witches council. It was this group of women that we all get together quarterly and we bring an issue and then we offer counsel. And the counsel I got from everybody there was you, and these are all people that have felt they're in my presence when I've been singing. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, you absolutely have what you need to share this with people and to help people open up their voice. They're like, it's one of the things that you do so well. You just haven't been framing it from the perspective of this is an offering now. So it really took me back for a minute. I was like, oh, okay. I never even considered that I'd be ready to launch. I was like, what do I need to do to get ready? Was my question. What do I need to do to get ready? And they're like, you need to offer it right now. I was like, oh, okay. And
I
then
love
it was
that. I love that
yeah,
about, I resonate with that with my own work. It's like
yeah.
sometimes like the work that you offer is the work that you need the most.
And that was what it was. They were like, oh, your program's called capable, but you're not feeling capable of doing this thing. How do you need to be with yourself and bring the program to yourself so that you can then do the thing that's actually, in most alignment for you?
I
So I was
love
like, oh
that.
yeah, I gotta go do that work.
Yeah.
I was like, so my insight was maybe capable, maybe that program was not for clients, maybe it was for me to take myself through it so that I can then launch into this new season of offering.
So what is this new season of offering?
Offering is a beautiful like combination of everything that I've already been doing. So the trauma healing work, the inner child work, the energy clearings that I do, with a deeper layer of embodiment to help people open up their voice so that they can express themselves, whether it's through song or through boundary setting or just toning, with more spaciousness, with more ease in their voice, with more power, more confidence. And a lot of people who come to me, they're like, I have tightness in my voice. I have shakiness in my voice. So helping people learn how to sing through that and heal through that, so that they can stand and speak from a space of power.
I love that. So I've been diving a little bit deeper into like sound healing and
Yeah.
frequencies as well. And it
Yeah.
really does, like we are frequency, we are
Yes.
energy. So it's like, of course we need this work.
Yes. And it's so interesting because every time I've asked my inner self, what do I need to do in order to integrate anything? I always hear breath and sound. It's about breath and sound. And so I've been using breath work. I've been facilitating breath work, but I've not facilitated or invited people into sound. And so that just feels like the next frontier of organic healing, healing that at the end of the day, like, you're teaching people how to fish, you're teaching people how to use the resources that they were born with to heal. And once you have that, you can just take that and run. And it can be a very intuitive relationship with the person that I'm working with. Once they're off and running with the foundations, it's like it's opened a whole new door for them to access intimacy with themselves.
Yes, I love that. I absolutely agree. When you're working with a practitioner, like it's so important to find somebody who's going to help you find the tools for you to have the tools and not like put this healer up on a pedestal and it's like, oh, well, you need to have a session with them to feel better. It's like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Like,
Yeah.
beware of that.
Beware of that for sure. It's like
Yes.
if this isn't helping you resource on your own, then what is it good for? I mean, I'm a firm believer in healing through community 100%, but like also you shouldn't be relying on it full time as the only thing that supports you through
Right, because
stickiness.
the tools are within you and we were all born with them. We've like forgotten them along the way. And it's like a great remembering coming back and learning those tools that work for you and implementing them and always having them in your toolbox. And that's what nearly enlightened is. It's like it's a high vibe toolbox of resources to tap into your own inner wisdom. And so I love having people on this podcast that have a very similar philosophy. It's like, no, I'm going to help you find the tools. I'm going to help you implement the tools. And then like away you go, flourish.
Away you go, fly.
Yes.
Yes, flourish. Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at right now is in this pivot of opening this up to people who want to work with their voice in a variety of capacities. I have not yet created a thing, but I am sitting with a brewing
Yeah.
something. And I think it's going to be called the Untamed Voice because I really want people
Ooh.
to access, yeah, their raw, their raw, natural, untamed voice, like all the range of sounds that they could make, not just the pretty ones, but the ones that are dissonant, like the parts of us that reject. How can we manifest that into sound and then be okay? Like there's this dual thing of like being okay with the parts we reject and also being okay with the sounds that they make. It's just a deeper level of intimacy and okayness with like all the edges of ourself.
Yeah, I see this in my practice a lot. Like to get people to breathe loudly in a yoga class is like a job in itself. I'm like, no, let it out. Like when we
Yes.
sigh, like I love this little fact, but when we vocally sigh out, it's actually a physical release of stress. So it's a way that we can
Yes.
physically move stress through. Like, why aren't we all sighing way more? Like, let that shit out.
Sighing, sneezing, yawning, even just like normal bodily functions that we hold back on because we don't want to take up space or draw attention to ourselves for many reasons. Often it's because we weren't like given the permission to, early on. Um, so there's a lot of unsafety or a sense of not being stable around taking up space with the voice. So I'm realizing that like I don't have to be a voice teacher to know how to support somebody in very slowly opening up their voice where they can sigh on an exhale in a yoga class or even just in front of me. Like that's an edge for a lot of people to make any
Yeah.
sound at all. And so that's what I want to help people do is like reclaim their sound.
I love that because I've since like learning yogic breath, like I think I'm a pretty loud breather and sometimes like you do get looks like this lady,
Yeah, yeah,
she's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
breathing really loud. It's like, oh, but I'm breathing. Like
Yes,
if I didn't,
right.
I'd
I'm
be
just
dead.
breathing. Uh-huh. Exactly. It's interesting because it's confronting. Like it's the sound of aliveness. It's the sound of energy and motion. And so many people are like so used to keeping their aliveness in this narrow window of
Yeah.
expression. So when people pop out of that, it's almost like socially like what's happening,
It's
like we're breaking
liberating.
social norm. Yeah. It can be liberating for a lot of people to see it. I use it as like a permission piece in spaces where I will go there so that other people can go there too. But it's I think for a lot of people it can feel a little initially confronting.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, is that okay?
And I love relating things to yogic philosophy because that's really like the tool that got me on the path and is like obviously a big part of my work. And so you were talking about breath and frequency and in yogic breath, I don't know if you've ever tried Brahmari, but it's like bee
Mhm.
buzz breath and it's you're literally humming in the back of your throat as
Yes.
you're breathing. So you're getting like both um medicines, like this
Yes.
deep breath and then you're getting this like vibration through the throat chakra through
Yeah.
the even sometimes like you can feel it in what they call the gear shift of your face, which is like the nose and the mouth. um and so I love that because it's like the beauty of both frequency and sound to move energy through and to like get rid of that stuckness. Because I've had a lot of throat things since I was a child, came in with like some severe strep throat that no one could diagnose and just like basically lived with chronic strep throat for like 5 years of my life. Um, and then a big portion of my healing journey has been clearing the throat chakra and using it in a way that's not like I tended to go the other way where I would like freak out and it was like loud Italian temper tantrum.
Yes. Oh, I can relate for sure. Yep.
So now learning to like balance that with like, yeah, not holding back, not pushing my boundaries, but also like releasing that in a healthier way, let's say.
I can say too that when I started opening up my voice, there was a lot of screaming happening, like a lot of primal screaming. And I needed that in that time because like there was so much that was down there that when it came out, it was like popping the lid off like a champagne bottle. It was like, I'm angry. There was so much anger. And there's continues to be. I'm actually actively working on that energy in my system right now. Just revisiting it. But I agree. Like there was also like I could go too hard and hurt myself with the screaming, right? So there's a sense of like, how can I express in a way that's more like conducive for the health of my system as well. It doesn't, yeah, blow my nervous system out of the water.
Right, because we're all trying to get back to this state of like nervous system regulation, and sometimes that dysregulation kind of can lead to a spiral for
Yeah.
myself anyways.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What have you found? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh,
What
of course.
what have you found to be most supportive in your journey of opening up your voice?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, this podcast has been
Ooh.
extremely therapeutic and cathartic for just like getting out my thoughts and feelings and kind of moving through. So last year I was very, very vocal about my life kind of falling to pieces,
Mm.
and very unexpected, very blindsiding, but using my voice in this podcast to connect with other healers and to just continue to show up to do this work that I know that I was destined to do, um, has really helped manage that. And also it helped me kind of come through the other side. And I'm still like, not that I'm still in it, but I'm kind of like on the precipice of like reaching that other side, like starting to
Mm.
see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm like, okay, so this is what I was going through this for. Like I'm moving through, and like I'm meeting this new version of myself,
Yeah.
and just like getting comfortable showing up as her.
Mm.
Definitely, I think I am someone who tended to be more on the masculine side, and I feel like that's why I like had these like crazy angry like outbursts and this thing that I call like this crazy Italian temper. um and I still, that still shows up for me. It's still work that I'm actively doing, but there is like a softer side of me now that I've tapped into. So I want to say like the last year and a half like humbled me, but also empowered me to use my voice in a different way to like help other people who are on the healing journey. Like I've talked a lot in the last year about like grief and loss, and I'm not part of this like positive vibes only camp. Like I just don't subscribe to that, because in this human experience, like we're meant to feel the full range of human emotions, and some of those uglier things like grief, loss, sadness, anger, like those are all
Hmm.
things that we're going to have to confront. And like, how do
Yeah.
we confront them?
Yeah. That's so interesting, right? Like going back to the parts that we reject can be manifested as those emotions. There's layers of us that are exist in those denser, harder to hold emotions for many people. And what I found is when I'm willing to make the really ugly sounds and ugly, I'm air quoting that, but like the ones that just aren't traditionally pretty, I I'm actually able to stretch my mouth and my throat and my singing palette landscape in a way that I never have before. And then my vocal range expands. So then my capacity to make really powerful, beautiful, like clear, pristine sounds, it expands as well because of my willingness to make all the other weird, denser, darker sounds. So I find that to be such a gorgeous metaphor for what you're talking about. The willingness to feel is mirrored in the willingness to sound. And the more we're willing, the more sound we can make and the more beauty we can experience, as well as, the other intensities, which I've also, as I'm getting older, learning like there's so much aliveness in the dense emotions as well. There's something about grief and anger that like wake us up to what we care about in such a beautiful, profound way that other things can't. So yeah, finding the
Yes, it's
gifts in
so
those as
true.
well.
Yeah, it's like, feeling the full like this, we keep coming back to this on this season, but like feeling the full spectrum of human emotions. Like we couldn't
Yeah.
experience deep joy, deep pleasure, deep happiness unless we have kind of sat in the other end of the spectrum with deep sadness, deep grief, deep anger. Like you can't fully experience one without the other.
Right. Right. For sure. Yeah, I'm very much with you there.
So what are some of the tools that you're using to move through this time?
Ooh, well, definitely my voice. So toning, just making sounds, humming, sending resonance and vibration, sound vibration into different areas of my body, um, focusing on different areas and then sending a tone there, playing with sending sound into different places that I've never sent it to, So again, just like broadening the landscape. Definitely talking to myself, doing some energy clearing. I'm trained in something called the spiral, which is a energetic clearing modality that uses kinesiology and different meridian points on the body to move energy. So I'm doing that for myself around the energies of rage, anger, frustration, everything that basically sits in the liver. I'm working on clearing right now. And I think it's a good time for it because there is so much tension in the collective and I don't want to add to it or get sucked into it. I really
Right.
want to anchor back into compassion as an empowered state. So that's my process on my journey right now. So
I love
using,
that. And with the next
yeah.
couple of months, like we're all gonna need that work.
For sure, for sure. So I'm allowing the anger, but also working on what's next. Like, is this the space I want to live in, or how do I want to weave this into something more empowering? Because I do have choice. So just remembering I have choice.
Yes, everyone has free will and
Yeah.
using that to make empowered choices.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love this. I love this work. Like I just resonate with what you're doing so much. And
Mm.
when you put that post up, I was like, oh, she's got to come back on the podcast and talk about this. Like, because
Yeah.
I think like when we're seeking and we're looking for people to help us like move through these dense frequencies for ourselves, like we kind of forget that the person on the other end is human too, and like they're not
Yeah.
perfect. And like social media does a really good job of making life look like a certain way, but like the
Hmm.
person on the other end of that course is human too, and they're probably offering that course because they've been seated where you're seated. And you so beautifully talked about that and so candidly talked about that, and I just really appreciate that.
Thank you. I always want to make sure that is clear in my messaging that I'm journeying things alongside people and that I definitely do not have, whatever the highlight reel people look at. Like it's not that's not the reality. I want people to see me as human and not any better than them. And I think that's necessary when choosing a person to work with because you have to feel like that person's going to hold you in your humanity and in your vulnerability and in all the weird stuff, So for me, at least, I look for people that are not afraid to be like, yes, I'm in it and I've been in it. And, like, I don't deny this I've not transcended it, right? It's like nearly enlightened. It's like nobody is immune that I know
Yeah,
to
exactly.
rocky seasons. Yeah. Or a need to pivot. And so I'm glad that it spoke to you in that way. Was there anything in particular that stood out about it that was like the thing, the sentence or like the spark?
Like literally all of it down to like the end. You were talking about like feeling like you weren't feeling like creative to market, and like
Oh yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, like I feel like she's speaking to me. Because I can I like I don't know if you know anything about human design, but I'm a projector. So like
Yeah.
it's really sometimes hard to balance those energies of like rest and putting out energy. And
Yeah.
so when you were talking about like not having the creativity to market or to put the effort in, like I really that resonated with me. And that's kind of why like this podcast has been booming. And like I said, I'm grateful and I am
Mm.
humbled. And sometimes I can't even believe it. Like there are thousands of people listening on the other end of this podcast. Like it literally blows my
Yeah.
fucking mind every single time.
Yeah.
I really needed to take a 2 week break. Like I was like, okay, we gotta manage this energy. So like not feeling guilty about not having the energy to just like push through. And I think
Mhm.
there's a lot of pressure in our society to just keep pushing through the fatigue
Yeah.
or like the not feeling creative. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're kind of forging this path that, so many people think I'm crazy for what I'm doing. And they're like, okay, we support you, but like, it's a little crazy. Like, why don't you just get a regular ass job?
Mhm.
It's like,
Yeah, right.
no, like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I would rather die. actually.
Mhm.
But like managing these energies of showing up and holding space, but also like allowing that retreat to just like rest and recharge. So I'm like, I'm just grateful for all of it. So I was loving that you were talking about it because so often like people who offer healing modalities to others, to seekers, like it becomes like a delicate dance. Sometimes you just feel like you need to push through because you need to like make that month or like whatever the story is. But I
Mm,
loved that you were talking so candidly about not just feeling like, this program might not have been it, or like just your experience with like, oh, I'm in this pivot and that's okay. It's like okay to have to do that.
yeah, for sure.
And that could
Yeah.
be really hard, like especially when you've created this thing, like you said, it's an 8 session program.
Yeah.
Like so you created this 8 session program and now it's like, oh, well, maybe that's not it. That can be really hard to like let go of. Like, oh, I did all this work, but like now
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. And even as you're talking, I'm like, you know what? Like it almost feels like it just merges with the vocal stuff because the program itself could still stand, but this focus specifically could be opening up the voice, right? So it's like feeling capable in speaking your truth, in using sound for healing and all of that. It might just need tweaking even.
Yeah.
I still like the concept of the untamed voice. But there's still layers and elements of what I brought through in that other program that I'm going to bring through in my vocal stuff. That's why I love the vocal stuff because I'm doing it my way. It's like nobody else does vocal guidance in this particular way. Nobody else brings all the modalities or all the, specific skill sets to the space that I do. So we have my puppies joining.
Oh,
Izzy,
I love that. They're like, oh,
it's coming up. All right,
the
honey.
animals love when spirit is in the room and like guiding through because my cats are definitely like probably at the door right now.
Yeah. Like let
Let
me
me
in.
in. Yeah.
It's so chill in here.
And talking about voice and frequency and breath, like if you look at animals, like they do that so beautifully. Like they
They
do it
do.
so naturally and so instinctually. Like I was actually just watching, my cat was like in the deepest sleep I've ever seen. I was like, wow, that must be so nice. And I was just
Yeah.
like watching her little belly go. And I was like, oh my God, she is so relaxed right now. Like, what's that
Uh-huh.
like?
And I was going to congratulate you initially for taking those 2 weeks off. I feel like it's so powerful that you're leading by example through and, practicing what you preach, recognizing when you need some space and giving it to yourself, even though there are all those parts of us as entrepreneurs that are like, we got to keep going, nobody's doing it for us. We're at the helm of the ship. So
Yeah, we are the helm of the ship, the whole
we are the
ship,
ship.
like the crew, like oh,
For
everything.
sure. Yeah. So that's powerful in and of itself that you made that choice. That was just really notable right at the beginning when you said it. I was like, I gotta comment on
And
that.
it's ironic too, or like maybe not so ironic that when I took that 2 week break just from the podcast, like some other things came through. So like some things
Right.
I'm working on my website, like ripped it all down and like I'm gonna be adding a blog and so there's some really like amazing things coming down the pipeline in
Mm,
a couple of weeks.
exciting.
So it's like
Okay.
when you open up that space and you recharge your energy, like you do have these creative bursts that come through and it's like it's the best feeling in the world. Like I can't describe it. So yeah, like all last week, like yeah, I was taking a break from the podcast, but I had all of these other things kind of behind the scenes kind of going, working with a woman who like helps me with my website and my funnels and like all of that stuff. Having some meetings with her and I had a video go like semi-viral. It had like almost 72,000 views on it. I was like, heck yeah, like
Yeah.
we're making moves, we're doing the thing. So it's like when
Yes.
you honor that energy and you need to pull back the energy to kind of rest, recharge, like the propel forward after that is just like it'll make your head spin.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. So permission to pivot, permission to rest, permission to realize something you put out there was for you,
Yeah. And
nobody else.
I think the permission to rest and the permission to pull back is like really important going into this fall season.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the fall is very that it's like getting ready to kind of hibernate in the winter. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere. Because I know I have people all over listening. So you might be going into summer and then maybe your energy is kind of like getting ready to expand. And that's definitely how I felt going into the summer. I was like ready to like be seen, be heard, be out there. And now I'm definitely feeling like the pullback of energy to be like, okay, like cozy home and like a little bit slower pace.
Yeah, for sure. I I feel an interesting surge at the cusp of summer fall to be seen. That I've always launched things around this time or have pivoted or it's I'm not sure what that is specifically for me, but socially I'm feeling like I need to pull back. Like I need to just be home and focusing on my creativity. I think I get a surge of creativity. That's what it is. And then I want to share that creativity. I'm like, what? It's creating time, like I like to craft and paint and write and stuff in the darker months. So that's where I'm at with that and still feeling the need to pull back with other stuff so I can focus on my creative sparks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like the biggest I kind of take away from that is like listen to your intuition, listen to what it's speaking and just honor that. Like it's really easy to kind of like dismiss that inner voice. And that's part of my work is like allowing yourself to really trust and listen to that inner voice. And so at times I cannot listen to that inner voice too, because I'm like, you're not telling me what I want to hear right now. So
Right. Yeah.
gonna
Next.
ignore it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Next. But like honoring and listening to that and being better about trusting that because like a lot of times there's a reason for those little sparks of intuition.
Yeah.
Spirit's nudging you in a certain direction and sometimes that direction is to pivot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I kind of love when that happens. It's scary, but then once you make the decision to actually do the pivot, once I made the decision, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Duh.
And then you're like, wow, why was I resistant to that for so long?
Yeah, for sure. I had to be, I guess. I had to hear it from other people first.
Yeah. It's so going back to like last week and pulling back my energy and just taking time. There was this one particular task that I was avoiding like the plague. Like I was just trying to just not do it. And I'm like, maybe it'll just get done by osmosis. And then once
Yeah.
I sat down to do it, it took me like 30 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, I've literally been avoiding this all summer long. I sat
Yeah.
down and it took me 30 minutes. I was like, it's hard not
Yeah.
to beat yourself up in those minutes, but in those moments, but I was like, wow, I'm an asshole.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. That is the story of my life. I'm always like like mundane things like laundry or doing the dishes or, basic stuff. I'm just like, I I never have the energy for it, and then you do it and it takes 4 or 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, wow. That was pretty dramatic.
Yeah.
Pretty
Drama, the
dramatic.
drama.
Totally.
Oh, well, I just want to thank you for coming on and talking about this because like I just think it's what everyone needs to hear and usually that's what happens when somebody comes on this podcast. It's just like a truth bomb that everyone needs to hear. And if you didn't go and listen to that last episode with Chrissy, like I really invite you to go and listen to that episode because it was so great. We talk a lot about the inner child work that you do and like the art of play. And I love that. I think that in these moments of kind of being in the pivot moments or even like where I was last year, like in the thick of it, like those moments of play are so grounding and are so like literally life-saving. Just those
Yes.
little sparks of joy.
Yes. Yes. I'm so glad that I was able to speak with you on that as well. That was so fun. So yes, go check it out.
Before we wrap up, what are those things right now for you that are like your little sparks of joy that just kind of give you that like light back?
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna shout out a girlfriend. She's actually here right now, and we've spent all morning doing photo shoots for her new boutique. It's called All Things Bohemian, and it's in Providence. So for our Rhode Island folk, we've been doing like trying on different looks and doing little photo shoots down by the water.
That
So
sounds
having
so fun.
it's amazing. Yeah. So that's bringing me joy right now, like being in a creative artistic space with a good friend. Um, Singing, playing, and cuddling with my dogs at night, going for walks outside, getting to the gym, moving my body. Um, yeah, those are all bringing me so much joy.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to shout out? Any offers, your social media, anything like that?
For sure. Yeah. If you want to follow me, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Instagram is Come Alive with Chrissy, CHRISSY. I think I'll send you some links so maybe you can pop those in.
Yes, I would love
Um,
to. And I'm gonna
my
literally put this up like I'm gonna upload it right when we get off,
oh,
and then I'm gonna put it right up. So
okay. Yeah, you can find my website. It's The Art of Aliveness, same as my podcast. So theartofaliveness.com. If you want to inquire about working with me, it's hello@theartofaliveness.com. You can email me there. And I have some information for some of my offerings on my website, but that pivot into the voice, that's not yet up on my website. So everything I've mentioned here, like boundary setting, developing confidence, ease, spaciousness, power, using your voice, like that is where my one-to-one work is pivoting. So if you want to do some of that work, just message me and say, I want the voice stuff. And I'll talk about what I've got going on there for you.
oh, I love that. Thank you so much for coming on again. It was an honor to chat with you. And I'm a big fan of yours. I love looking at your posts and seeing what you're up to because it always sparks inspiration for me. And it's important work that I just want to share.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for listening. This is the Nearly Enlightened podcast, and I'll talk to you next time.